I am black and beautiful. I am the great Mother of God, the star of the sea, full of grace. I am Queen of the sky, refuge of the outcast. I am the one that can free your soul from grief and pain, the eternal Mother, full of mercy and unconditional love. I am Alessandra Belloni, and I've dedicated my life to the devotion and musical traditions in honor of the Black Madonna. And you will now follow me in a spiritual and musical journey through Sicily and southern Italy to unveil the mysteries of the Black Madonna and her healing powers through music, dance, and drumming. During my 40 years of research, I discovered many fascinating myths and legends relating to the Black Madonna. The oldest myth in the Mediterranean culture says that a black meteorite fell from the stars and was worshipped as a divinity in Anatolia, Turkey. It was then brought to Rome and made into the statue of the earth goddess Cybele. There are 7 Madonnas, there are 7 sisters. The last one of the sisters was believed to be the ugliest. So she ran away to hide way up on the mountain, on the sacred mountain. She was the most beautiful of all the 7 sisters, and she was black. And they called her Mamma Schiavona, the serving mother.
Everybody, thank you for joining us today. I'm here with the subject creator of a beautiful work of art, a beautiful film that's a documentary about many things, about healing with the Virgin Mary, about dance, about so many things. So without further ado, welcome Alessandra Bella. Why am I getting your name mixed?
Bella is nice.
Yeah.
Belloni.
Belloni, yes, thank you. I'm just excited to talk to you because there's so much happening in this film, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's start with in your perspective, which came first on your journey? Your spiritual side, your devotion to the Virgin Mary, your dance aspect, the healing of dance aspect. Which came first for you?
I think the first thing that brought me to her is the music, the devotional music and the singing. I grew up in Rome, devoted to Mary with my mother. You know, my mother was very devoted to the Madonna. So that spiritual aspect of the devotion to the mother, more than Jesus, was really through my mother's line. They were all devoted to La Madonna. But the way I found the Black Madonna is through music, because I started to do this revival of the Italian folk music from the South, connected also to my mother's parents or my maternal grandparents. They played this music. And as I went down south, starting, the first part was really in Calabria, but then, as you know, I traveled all over, as you see in the film. Um, I saw those Black Madonnas, and they really spoke to me. And even though there are Black Madonnas in Rome, I wasn't familiar with them in Rome. I discovered them there, in Calabria, Naples, Sicily, Tindari. And what brought me to them was the fact that the people devoted to their Black Madonna were playing this beautiful, ancient folk music. You know, the women were singing and chanting, and there was on all the drumming, the rituals of the, you know, the tamuriada with the castanets, the dance for her. That's what drew me to her as a musician, because we started this group in New York, and we're now celebrating 45 years with a concert at St. John the Divine, May 16th. So the initial, you know, I was very young, early 20s. The initial part was, oh, this music is so beautiful and it's devotional. Then I started to feel her power pretty much right away, and I kept being drawn to that. And so looking for more and more places with the Black Madonna, with these, you know, very interesting processions, and then put the music in an opera called The Voyage of the Black Madonna. But with that, I also had the vision of her. So if you want, I can explain that, how the spiritual aspect came through.
Yes, please, because you touched on a lot there. I want to go back to as well. You said even more than Jesus, you kind of felt this pull to, you know, to the Madonna and through your mother's line. So I want to touch on that, because there's people who will say, you know, that's then, you know, that could be seen as idolatry, you know, because Jesus is first, right? You know, if it wasn't for the sacrifice, then, you know, so, you know, I want to touch on that, and just how she came to you spiritually as well. There's so much, you know, down to, you know, people will say, oh wow, Black Madonna. You'll have people here that, you know, that have never been exposed to that.
Absolutely, that's why I made the film. Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
yeah, we have a
most
lot to talk about.
Italians, Southern Italians are aware of the Black Madonna because they grew up with that tradition. Some Italian Americans, like you, if you've been to Tinder, they are aware of it. Most Italian Americans are not. And also, I think, in general, in the United States. I think part of the work I do is important to specify that it's a pre-Christian devotion. So, you know, I grew up Catholic, but we must acknowledge that this great mother worship, which is what the Black Madonna represents, it's pre-Christian, and it's a devotion to the Earth Mother Goddess in many different ways, and also the African Mother as an origin. So that for me is important people understand. But in Christianity too, it's important. So the way I experienced the power of the Black Madonna is, I was ill back in 1986. Spiritually, she came through when I had a cancerous condition of the cervix, and I had a surgery, and very common disease among women called dysplasia. And when I woke up from anesthesia, I had a very strong vision of the Black Madonna over my bed, coming to me with her hands out and telling me that I was going to be okay, that I had to follow her path, and that I was going to feel other people's pain, but I had to follow her path. So it was really strong, and that's the Black Madonna that you see at the end of the film, Our Lady of Freedom. It took me many years to understand who she was. She's also behind me. As you see, there is a drum with the Black Madonna.
Yes,
But
yes.
So that was so real. It really awakened me in many different ways. And I was lucky that my mother had come from Rome to be with me for the surgery. So when I went back, I told her I had this really strong vision of the Madonna, and she understood it, and she said, "You're just like me. You know, you inherited this connection to Mary, and you gotta listen to her and follow her." So, and my mother had been kind of saved during the bombing of Rome by Mary. So there is
Wow.
a whole, family interesting connection. I mean, my mother had a dream that they were going to bomb Rome the next day, and it did happen in 1943 during World War II. And then, during the explosion, she hung out to the painting of the Madonna they had at home, and they were saved. They didn't die. So that's a big
Wow.
deal. It's in my book. I don't know if you know my book, but I'll show
Yeah,
it.
I want to get to all like yeah, of why you decided to do this film now, how you met up with the director,
Okay.
what was involved logistically. I thought it was great. You had the one woman also too that was speaking, was cured. She had a surgery, and through the movement
Yes,
and the dance, she was also cured. So it seems like there's something there, like this spirit over body. Um, you know,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
is that
I mean, once you enter this, it's like a portal in another dimension. That's how I describe it too. The Madonna does manifest herself in different ways. If you're um, ready to surrender to her, if you try to make things happen, sometimes it doesn't work. There's a lot of prayer involved, to really connect to her. And then she comes through different ways. So she, like the woman you see in the film, Cynthia, she's one of my students, also saw her when she was ill. And this is happen all the time when I teach workshops, when I lead the tours in Italy. There's one in June in Sicily, on June 19th, and then one in August in Campania. This happens all the time. People talk to me about that they are sick or they are near death experience or the death of a loved one, and then they have the vision of the Madonna. That helps.
wow?
I have nothing to do with that. She does that. I just am very blessed to be um, like a channel of that to help people find her.
Wow, wow.
That's why
Yeah,
I made
now
it.
so and you also have a book
Yeah,
about the
it's
music.
right here.
Yes.
It's called Healing Journeys with the Black Madonna, and
And
this came before the film, but I always knew this was going to become a documentary.
uh
Big book.
it's yeah, it's beautiful cover. It's so interesting to me because I'm wondering what reactions you get, maybe even from African Americans, you
Very
know,
good question.
because it seems like yeah,
It's a
yes.
very good question because in this country, African Americans are not so aware of the devotion to the Black Madonna. It's happening now. So if people were watching this and if you're curious, you can go on YouTube. You'll find finally African Americans are doing their videos and some documentaries on the Black Madonna. There are places in Detroit, Atlanta, Chicago. It's called the Shrine of the Black Madonna. I still have not been in touch with them. I plan to do so. I think they probably have my book because my book has been out for 5 years. But now they're becoming aware. The reaction, I have a lot of friends who are African Americans or they're writers, a lot of them. In the beginning, is like, oh, is she in the Bible? Because I think part of what the problem has been here in this country, especially as a result, people coming out of slavery, is people were taught that every sacred image is white.
Mhm.
And also they were taught to worship Jesus more than Mary. But, and I'm going to get into the Christian aspect of the Black Madonna devotion. But in reality, in Europe, we all accept the Madonna as being black. In France, there are hundreds. In Spain, in Italy, in Switzerland, in England, so in Catholic countries. So it's interesting how I think colonization has wiped out from African Americans this remembering the African mother also exists, the dark mother. And now what's really interesting that we know from the first 300 years after Jesus' death that Mary was portrayed in the beginning, and so was Jesus, dark because they were North Africans. They were impossible, blue eye, blonde. An invention of the Vatican. You know, I come from Rome, so I don't want to talk too much about that part, but that is being systematic done by the Vatican to whiten Mary and Jesus. So Mary, Mother of Christ, was dark. Jesus was dark. The Black Madonna also embraces that, as well as the devotion of pre-Christian times of the Dark Mother. Isis from Egypt, the goddess of the moon, Artemis of Ephesus, and also certain aspects of Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and the one that's really important in Naples and also in Sicily is also Isis. It's Cybele, the goddess of the earth mother, the Magna Mater. And for her, the devotees played the frame drums, the tambourines. So that's what's really special about our culture in southern Italy. As you know, Sicily and Naples, all of that was called Magna Grecia, Great Greece. All of these pre-Christian devotions to these important goddesses was then mixed with Christianity. What's so special is that we didn't lose the musical devotion. The people continued with the chanting, the singing, to us, all for asking for grace and miracles, and to thank her for her blessings. So that's really special of the south of Italy. Even though there are Black Madonnas in France and Spain and other parts of Europe, that part did not survive through Christianity. They tried to repress these set dances and drumming because they're also very sensual. They were fertility rites. But if you go now, it's people are Catholic. They do it as Catholics, the devotion to the Great Mother, and it's beautiful. Like you see the women carry the singing tradition, like you see in the film. Then you see men devoted, men drumming, men singing, men carrying the statue. She embraces everyone, and the miracles really happen.
And what you're saying, and just hearing you describe, the chanting and the dancing, it does feel like something very African. And to me, I've been to Tindari, as we were saying before the interview. The church is just massive. It's just overwhelming. It's massive. You have to go up a huge mountain. Your ears pop on the way up.
It's a journey. It's a spiritual journey, just going up there.
Yes, you're already taking flights. So I always wondered, because I was trying to put this together, as being born in America and seeing the Holy Family being represented as white. I always thought, I was like, oh, well, maybe since Sicily is so close to Africa.
Yes, it's closer to Africa than Europe.
Yeah.
40 miles from the top.
Yeah, so I always thought that's why they kind of embraced that aspect. But, like you say, and if anybody really thinks about it, Jesus was, in a desert for, desert.
North African, Jewish North Africans, impossible that they could have been white. That's just not possible.
Right.
and the fact that to embrace the darkness as our, part of our DNA, and too, because I do believe that humankind has roots in Africa, and I think that's really important. So, and it's important for African Americans to know that we worship Black sacred images. That's really important. I hope that comes through in my film. I want to make that
Yes,
No,
yes, no, does. Yeah, no, instantly right away because you're starting off with the Black Madonna. And like I said, as you, I'm sure, have encountered, I don't think many people, I think people here would go, what? What do you mean black? They might think you're, poking fun or something, instead of being sincere and like, no, look, we know better,
but you live near New York, right? You're in New
Yeah,
York.
I'm originally from the Bronx, but I'm about a half hour north of the city now. Yeah.
So in the Bronx, they had I don't know if they fixed it, the beautiful statue of the Black Madonna from Montevergine. The community there is from Campania, near Naples. And so there are many Black Madonnas in New York, many. I usually go to the one on Park Avenue in 84, Our Lady of Montserrat from Spain, but then there is one on Arthur Avenue. And there are many Guadalupes from Mexico, who's also Black Madonna, and the one from Poland, Częstochowa, also Black Madonna. So one of my goals, I have been saying this for a while, but I need an assistant to make this happen, because I lead tours in Italy, as you know, but I want to lead a tour of Black Madonnas in New York. There are many.
Beautiful,
And the
beautiful.
one from Tindari, I don't know if you're aware, because you're Sicilian, you should know this. They have the exact statue of Tindari, but the other one in my film, you see when we go to Milazzo and I show the other Black Madonna of Tindari which, by the water, they have that statue identical in Hoboken, but it's
Really?
in a chapel. So if you're interested, we should talk again. I'm trying to bring people there and to make it open to the public. And
Wow.
it's unbelievable, the same statue. Huge.
Wow. Wow.
And it was an
So,
ancient devotion place for the Sicilians. They had it built in Sicily and they brought it over.
wow. So, I don't know, just like for people that don't know, like you mentioned, the Madonna of Guadalupe, like a lot of people that don't have the exposure will say, well, wait a minute, there's only one Virgin Mary in the Bible. What are,
Well, again, it's also pre-Christian. It's really a continuation of a worship that existed before, because we all know we come from the mother,
Um,
you know.
so it's
And
like
the
an
the
archetype.
womb of the mother is dark. The miracle of giving life, it's represented in the darkness when Mary. That's Mary's black. She gives birth. It's the womb. It's the darkness.
Um,
So there are many layers of this, the Black Madonna, what she really means. So, and I
wow.
really want to make that clear that it's so hard to explain it in a few words. This book is 435 pages.
Where can
Well,
we get that on Amazon?
yeah, it's on Amazon. It's a very good publisher. It's called Inner Tradition. Very good publisher. And I have a foreword by a very famous writer, bestseller, Matthew Fox, who's a priest, Episcopalian priest. And he's obviously a Christian priest. So again, he's also devoted to the Black Madonna. So in his foreword, he talks about that why she's important today, to make people aware of, we're all equal, so with all the racist problems, and also a devotion to the Madonna in Naples is by gays and transgenders since ancient times, and they are considered sacred, I femminielli. So she embraces all of that, and people who feel outcast, like the priest says in my film at the end, that he was really touched by an old woman from Moiano saying that she always felt outcast in society, but embraced by the Black Madonna, Our Lady of Freedom. So
Wow.
that's really, for me, important message, that people who are feeling, outcast or grieving, people that suffer from addiction, gays, people that I can identify in one place in society, they can go to pray to the Black Madonna and they will feel that love. And if you see in the processions in the film too, you can see there are poor people, a lot of peasants. It's not the devotion. Everyone goes to the processions, rich and poor. But you
Yes,
can see there
yes.
are people that are struggling. A lot of people are struggling.
You brought up, I loved this one, Young Pope.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
yeah,
Yes, I love that.
yeah, yeah.
Law was the actor.
Jude Law was the young pope, and I love when he said, "Everybody finds God in the cold." Yeah, yeah.
Ooh,
So like when you
beautiful.
brought up, yeah, like the peasants, in the procession, which in America, I don't think you see many processions.
Not anymore. I know you were born here, but I know I wasn't. But I know from people who play music with me who were born here but of Italian descent, Sicilian and Calabrese especially. They used to do that here. People used to do the processions, carrying the Black Madonna Montevergine, Moiano, chanting, singing, up to I think, to the early 70s. And then when those
Wow.
people died, unfortunately, here that tradition has been lost.
I wonder if it's more an issue of civil control more than a lost tradition,
That's a good point. I never thought about that.
Yeah, who wants to see people, think about how liberating that would be if you would just a few days a year open up your door and see people dancing and singing in the streets, worshiping God.
Ah, yes.
How liberating would that be that they broke through the 9 to 5, they broke through having to pay bills and are just focusing on dancing and singing in the streets in a spiritual way.
Which is a liberation. We all need that. And to
Yeah.
make that contact with the divine, with God.
Right? Right? How?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but we need it desperately. See, that's what happened with COVID. I feel I forgot to share this, but in the film, because, not even forget, I just couldn't say, the Black Madonna worship was really, really big in the Middle Ages during the plague. And there are many accounts all over Sicily, Calabria, all over southern Italy, and France, that people processed with these statues, prayed and prayed and prayed, they drummed, they danced, they sang, to stop the plague from coming to town. And there are historical accounts how they were protected and saved, and some people healed if they had the plague. So during COVID, I made a specific video with everybody in Zoom because we couldn't film. Because I had a vision. I would like to share this with you. It was 2 a.m. It was the beginning of COVID. It was in early May, and I felt coming from the window. I live on the river, on the Hudson River in Edgewater, and I felt all these voices come through the window, and I thought I was really going crazy. I've always said these psychic powers. Sometimes it's a gift, sometimes it's a curse, because you're like, ah! And I heard these voices. It was like 2 a.m. and I opened the balcony, and I heard it again. It was like moaning, and people were really dying one after the other. And then I went to the bathroom and get ready to go to sleep, and on my phone, out of nowhere, the Black Madonna appeared, the song that we do, Cultissimus, which is in a film too, and 2 times on my phone. It came back twice, and I went, oh my God, how's this happening? It was really like she was making this happen.
Right, right.
And I called a friend of mine who's a Sicilian and Gypsy and Calabrese. His name is Gypsy Joe. He lives in Queens. And he said, Alessandra, the veil is really thin right now. A lot of people are dying. He's a psychic and a medium. He said, you're being called to do something with her. So I had this vision, and I made this video. Because I
Yes.
realized how important that it was. COVID plague, the same, you know, same story of the Middle Ages. But in those times, people got out and did the processions, and they did these collective rituals to heal, which
Yeah.
we could have never done here. I put it in the film, but if I started to do that in the streets, I'd probably get arrested.
Yeah, no, but exactly. Yeah, just I think society as a whole, I think we're so trained, attack, 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 achieve, achieve, achieve. It's never love, heal, support each other, you
It's
know.
very, it's
Um,
very, what I think I hope that comes through in the film, that
yes.
sense of community that people have in these places when like you see. That's what I missed the most. Those 2 years that I couldn't go back because of COVID. I was craving that because here we don't have them.
Hmm.
That sense of community and togetherness. And if you remember, the Italians were the ones who started during COVID to play in the balconies, in the windows,
Yes.
and then you have
Yeah.
the ancestor that shows everything.
Yeah, no,
They
I
do.
dance. I love to exercise and everything, and I dance, and I feel a difference in my body and how I just feel emotionally. Like there's such a difference between just regular cardio
Yes,
versus that fluid motion.
very
There's a difference. There just
different.
is. Personally, I felt that. I mean, I don't know.
I'm glad you dance. You should come dance with us.
I'd love to. I'd love to. Yes, yes, yes. No, we have to meet. This is too
And
special.
there is, as you see in the film, there is the dance for the Black Madonna, the one with castanets, that's specifically done for her.
Wow,
And
yeah.
most people here are not aware of it. When I show the film, people are like, "Oh my God, I didn't know." The Italian Americans in the audience were like, "Oh, that's what they do in Italy for the Madonna." Yeah,
Yeah, no, a lot of the instruments you brought out, I think that that here, I don't have to tell you, you live here. I think people would be, their minds would be blown, you know, like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it would, if you, you know, like maybe didn't play your voice and just showed like the film, I would guarantee you people would think, oh, this is an African ritual.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the groups are part African, of
yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah.
And the
So, yeah.
Rigalino is 4/4 and 6/8. That's also African.
Yeah.
And some of the gestures, these movements with the hands. If you ever seen African dancing, they also do those gestures. And some of the steps, going to the side and front, they are mixed.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of our Southern Italian culture. And one of the purposes to make this film was really to make it known, because people always see a different side of Italy. Like last night, I was just trying to get my mind off a lot of stress. As I share with you some things that happened to me, and I just watched something quite stupid, I think, but it's very successful because my music is in it. So I watched it.
Oh.
So Emily in Paris, that
Oh
series.
wow, your music is in that.
Yeah, and so one of my dancers saw it, and so one tarantella is in the beginning of the episode 10 of season 4. So I had watched it before. I didn't like it, but now I watch it again because I wanted to check my music, and also, to be honest, to tell my lawyer and the label, like, hello, my music is on TV. So supposedly we're, obviously we should have to get royalties. But because of that, I watched it, and the last 2 episodes happen in Italy, in Rome, and they always show the same side of Italy, the beautiful girls, the beautiful men, everybody's in the piazza, having gelato, drinking coffee, well dressed, and luxury apartments, luxury villas. That's not Italy. That's a small part of Italy.
Yeah, and not even the most interesting. Yeah.
No, thank you. But that's the American perspective of
Yes.
Italy.
Yes, that's what I was trying to get out by saying that. Like, yeah, I don't think people, get that depth. Yeah, it's always just a luxury resort, which could be anywhere.
Right.
That could be Florida.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you see that, Italians have that. Unfortunately, I mean, it's also the Italians' fault that not to keep certain tradition like we have done with my group. But the Italians really don't do anything to show a different side. Of course, that's in film, in television.
Yes.
That's more commercial. That's what we're going to do.
Right.
So I chose to do something that I know it's not commercial. I already tried. The distributor said it's not commercial. That's okay. But some people are getting it. People are loving. So far, the screenings I've done, and it's. I know it touches people's hearts. When I did the premiere at NYU, that funded the film, a lot of people, at least half of the people in the audience, were crying.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. If we could touch on a bit the tarantella, because I think some people might know that here, but they don't know that it started for, the poison spider to get the poison out. Right? So if you want to go into that a little bit more detail, please.
Absolutely. So the tarantella also has a pre-Christian origin from ancient Greece. We know it existed because of obviously the same way we know why the Black Madonna devotion with drumming and dance was done in pre-Christian times, because of the mosaics in Pompeii and all over. You find these frescoes, mosaic vases. You see people with the drum. You see women with that pose, dancing, with the step. So we know that in ancient Greece, a form of ecstatic dance existed, where mainly women gathered, known as bacchantes, and they played the tambourine already. We know that obviously from the artwork, and it had to do with releasing their sexuality and sensuality. So men were part of these fertility rites, but they were controlled by women who were initiated in the mysteries of Dionysus and the goddess Cybele. So I don't know if you've been to Pompeii, but if you go, if anybody's interested, you go to the Villa dei Misteri, the Villa of the Mysteries. All these giant frescoes are portraying the initiation of a girl, a young girl, all the way to she's an old woman, to Dionysus and the goddess Cybele, and you see the instruments they use, you see the tambourine, the movement of the dance. So tarantella is connected to the spider bite because of a legend of Arachne, which, from arachnophobia. Arachne, again, going back into the Greek times, was supposed to be a beautiful young virgin, the skilled weaver of Athens, and she challenged the goddess Athena to a weaving contest. The goddess accepts, Arachne wins, and Athena, taken by jealousy, hits Arachne over the head and destroys her linen, this beautiful artwork. And Arachne, in humiliation, commits suicide, and she hangs herself from a tree. And Athena, taken by pity, transforms her into a spider, condemning her to weave her web forever. So this is the myth of the spider, which is female. It's spider woman. It's not spider man. That's another thing of our society. They made spider woman into spider man, but originally in most cultures it's female. And in this myth, they say that Arachne started to bite the young girls, especially the virgins, and this suffering that became a form of depression became really popular. To Christianity, they changed the rituals. The dance is very sensual, but it came out in the Renaissance. So the people said, mainly women, they were beaten by the spider, the tarantula, and they had to dance the poison out of the body. So that's how they started to do this dance.
This is so fascinating. Because you're really bringing up so much, because
that's another film.
Yeah.
I really want to make another film about that. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, wow. No, and then because I try to I try to see it through a Christian lens, everything, right? So I always what I was thinking of who the gods, were, the Greek gods, the Roman gods, Norse, all of the mythology, right? Mm-hmm. I was trying to I was theorizing if they're the angels that fell from heaven and mated with human women. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was coming up with, because it's so prevalent, each region, Rome, Greece, Nordic has their own pantheon, with their own powers and everything. So that's what I was trying to in my head figure out
Yeah, but obviously mythology is very complex. I have studied mythology a lot. For the work I do, everything is based on mythology, I must say, and also of course, the devotion to the goddesses. But the good thing is that in our tradition, in the Catholic traditions, a lot of things survived, were kept. Mm-hmm. And in the south of Italy, not everywhere in the world, but the tarantella, instead of disappearing, evolved.
Fireflies and jars divided, wonder bars and hungry